Beijing Center, to all those organizing this, and to what it represents, which is especially good relations between our two countries. And we are here for that reason, especially at this time of challenge with economic and social and political and ecological challenges. And we feel our relationship is one of the most important in the world, US and China. So it's a joy to be in a cultural, diplomatic dialogue, if you will, of intellectual exchange, especially with the roots of Chinese thought and philosophy, particularly Confucianism, which is having its own revival and resurgence on many levels, a government level, academic level, civil society level, process thought level conversation. And so this is a very exciting time. And to not be discouraged by some of the challenges, but to figure ways forward, not just intellectual in our heads, but something that will inspire transformative action, transformation for the flourishing of the Earth community. And that is what this film is an offering into that space of change, of possibility, of energy. And I'm so happy to see so many young people here from the universities, even high schools. And we like to say we're giving an intergenerational handshake between, we have Yale students here, Xinzhong students, Renmin professors, and so on, and high schools. It's very, very important that we have this intergenerational exchange. So, in short, this is a film that tells the story of the universe, but in a way that brings science and humanities, as Devin said, into conversation, to say this isn't just a meaningless, purposeless, random universe, but it's an unfolding story in which we belong. We have our sense of meaning and purpose. And that is really important, because if we have meaning and purpose, we can act, we can participate, we can contribute. We won't lose our hope, our possibilities, our sense of direction. So that is what this film is offering, a sense of an epic story of evolution for an ecological and moral, if you will, revolution for our planetary future. So big story, inspiration for perspiration, for the action and for the change. So thank you. It's wonderful to be here. Over to you.
I join with Mary Evelyn in these appreciative remarks, especially to the Yale Beijing Center for hosting a repeat and to join together with Professor Yao. It's really a delight to be with those. I consider myself a friend coming from afar here to cite the Analects. It's 3 points that I wanted to make, just some remarks about the structure of the film that I thought might be helpful at the outset. First, the narrator is Brian Thomas Swim. Second, a comment about Samos, the setting of the film. And third, about the material of the film itself. First then, Brian Thomas Swim is a colleague who's worked very closely with us. He's a mathematical cosmologist. He's out of the west coast of the United States. And it's interesting also, Brian is a registered member of a minority group, a Native American group, First Nations in Canada, Fraser River Salish. So I think it's an important, his own background brings him to an understanding. He, as a mathematical cosmologist, specialized in the early universe, and he put a great deal of effort into getting an understanding of the science background of these issues. And we also helped to bring the humanities perspective. But the final point here is the science-humanities dialogue in the film. I think that's an undercurrent very strong. Secondly, Samos, this island, a Greek island just off the coast of Turkey, so you can see it very clearly from the Turkish coast. We chose Samos, and we could have chosen a number of places, crossroads of history. Samos has a rather significant place in the historical record. It's the birthplace of Pythagoras. Pythagoras will come to play in the film, but also Aristarchus. Aristarchus is the earliest known individual that we're aware of who placed the Earth as orbiting around the sun. And so this sense of Samos as a crossroads where ideas are gathering, and then finally the film itself, the material of the film, the data, or if you will, the scientific facts that will be presented. I find, well, this is probably my 650th viewing, and when I watch it, I let myself watch the film rather than get caught in the data. I would recommend that to you. Let it flow through you, and that point which you find really instrumental or speaking to you, then quiz that. For me, it's when water begins to flow together. Thank you. The whirlpool for me is the moment it captures my attention. So I'm interested in the question and answer when we have a chance to talk about what captures you.
Is this on? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I was just going to make a few remarks and then we're going to have a discussion, but I want to first introduce Professor Yao, who we're delighted to have join us today, a longtime friend and colleague. He's a professor of ethics at the School of Philosophy at Renmin University, and he's formerly dean of the School of Philosophy there. And he was also formerly professor and director of King's China Institute at King's College London. Prior to this appointment, Professor Yao was professor of religion and ethics at the University of Wales and a senior research fellow at the Ian Ramsay Center at the University of Oxford. In 1998, in recognition of his work promoting Confucianism in the UK, he was made honorary president of the Confucian Academy in Hong Kong. Yao has published books and articles on the subject of Confucianism, including comparative studies with Christianity. He's the author and editor of the 2-volume Encyclopedia on Confucianism and co-edited with Du Ming the 4-volume Confucian Studies, Critical Concepts in Asian Philosophy. So we're delighted to have him, and I'd like you to join me in welcoming him to this event. So I was going to make a few comments before we have some discussion. And I want to say there's many qualified people here, including our colleague Wang Zhihe, and also Yang Mei, who will probably add to our discussion. We're delighted that they're here. What I want to do here is just make some connections between science and cosmology and Confucianism and its sense of cosmology. And then we will discuss this. Now, the point is, science has its own understanding of cosmology, and it doesn't always bring in the human connection, as this film is trying to do. So that's the dialogue that we're exploring tonight. Now, first of all, why is this important? Let's just give some consideration to that. Because a film like this is bringing together cosmological metaphors of meaning and scientific facts. That's what we were trying to do. It's a fusion of meaning and facts. Now that's a new genre in a way, okay? Because we've separated science and facts and humans. So why is it important? Because it's difficult for humans who are meaning-making animals, as we say in the film, meaning-making animals, to live without a sense of meaning. Where have we come from? How do we belong? Why are we here? And how can we contribute? If science claims, as it frequently does, that there is no meaning or purpose in evolution, but rather evolution is just a series of chaotic and random events, we have to ask ourselves, how do humans fit in? How do we belong, and how we can contribute to a flourishing future. Is this okay for everybody with English? Because we do have people who can translate. Anybody feel we need some translation? We're okay? Okay. So this is a central dilemma for our human moment. Okay? No meaning in the universe is generally a scientific perspective. Humans always are searching for meaning and purpose. Okay. So, moreover, if some scientists say that all we need are mechanistic laws to explain nature and its workings, evolution and ecology are also giving us a greater sense of complexity, of awe and wonder. So some of this split is changing, okay? Because ecology is talking about awe and wonder and holism. The promising news is that science is opening up in various forms of systems science, sustainability science, and emergence science. So the split is coming together, we hope, in our lifetime. Confucianism may contribute as well to an enlarged sensibility of the sublime in nature. Look at Chinese art, the sublime in nature. Look at Chinese gardens. And also the sublime in the cosmos, along with the recognition of the intrinsic or even the moral value of nature. Confucianism especially has this sense of the moral value of nature. It's not meaningless, it's not dead, it's morally valuable. And indeed then, this is an important time to explore cosmology and ecology, how they come together, cosmos and earth and human. Okay, so this larger sense of where we belong in a living universe and how this gives us a long-term perspective of deep evolutionary time to be a force for protection of Earth systems and the planet. So evolutionary time and ecological protection of ecosystems coming together. Okay, so Confucian cosmology and scientific cosmology are coming together in a film like this and in our own thinking. I'll just give 4 examples of that, and then we're going to open up to discussion with our panelists and with you. So how do these go together? Cosmology, ecology, science, and Confucian thought. So one is the idea of forming one body with all things. One body with all things, which is Ten Ren Hu Yi, that heaven, earth, and humans are one. Fundamental for Confucian and Chinese thought. So Neo-Confucians have always seen the universe in this continuity of the unfolding of evolution. There's no radical separation between cosmos, earth, and human. We have to remember most Western thought has a radical separation of God, or a transcendent power, and humans and earth. So there's a potential here for seeing humans as integrated within evolutionary systems, not just added on, as is often the case with Western religions, but as intrinsic to the process. Humans are intrinsic to this. We come out of these processes. Now, science also speaks of the singularity of evolution, from the great flaring forth of particles, of atoms, of galaxies and stars, to planets and solar system and the emergence of life. So science is giving us that same continuity of this unfolding evolutionary process. Okay, second point is chi, matter, energy, is imprinted with pattern. Remember in the film it talks about everything has pattern. That's Li and Qi coming together. So Qi, matter, energy, but pattern. This is a great contribution of Chinese thought. So what provides the unity of evolutions for Confucians is the dynamic and non-dual reality of matter-energy. It's separate in the West, in Western thinking. It's not separate in Chinese thought. So Qi is permeated with vital transformations expressed as sheng, life, reproduction of life, fecundity of life. Qi is constantly transforming. For evolutionary science, this can be seen as energy in changing forms, such as emergent properties and self-organizing dynamics. These are some of the most exciting areas of study in science. What is a self-organizing dynamic? How did galaxies form? We were at Princeton for one semester, and the scientists there said, we don't really know. These are the best scientists in the world on galaxies. We don't really know how galaxies form. But somehow there's these emergent and self-organizing dynamics of stars forming into a galaxy. Incredible processes. That inspires awe, wonder, a sense of creativity. So for evolutionary science, this can be seen as energy in changing forms, and it moves from lesser complexity to greater complexity, from lesser consciousness to greater consciousness. So atoms being very simple, stars being more complex, galaxies being more complex, planetary systems, Earth as a living system. So greater complexity and greater consciousness. Okay, the third point is humans are the mind and heart of heaven and earth. The Xin, the mind and heart of heaven and earth. Right in the film is that at the very end. The humans are mind and heart of heaven and earth. We're the microcosm of the macrocosm. Again, many traditions have that sensibility, but Confucianism, Taoism have a huge sense. We're part of the whole cosmos. So humans are the compassionate and thinking dimension of evolution, both compassion and thinking as one. This is a given, but also an achievement through cultivation, through praxis, through Tai Chi, Qigong, traditional Chinese medicine, study, cultivation. So from science, we now know that besides humans, there are many forms. This is one of the most exciting things about science right now. Many forms of sentience or ways of knowing in the world beyond human. The more than human world we now understand is alive, is communicating, is changing information even. There are books now called How Forests Think. Do Glaciers Listen? Okay, the sentience of trees, of communication. We had a Yale webinar of communication among trees. 9,000 people signed up for this because it is bursting into human consciousness. Animal communication, whale songs, the intelligence of dolphins, migrating patterns of birds, of caribou, of whales. This is sentience, you see, in the whole world, which science is now giving us as well. Confucianism, Taoism understood this sense. So do indigenous traditions. Okay. The final point, number 4, is humans are co-creators. Namely, we're forming civilizations. We are self-organizing societal, social beings. That's why our phones are so important, why we want to communicate. We're social beings self-organizing ourselves, just like tonight. We're having a discussion, and we're going to learn from one another. So this sense then, and this is why Dr. Wang's presence is important, ecological civilization, a term that really comes from China. It has implications in the government of China, it has implications in academia, in civil society. What is ecological civilization? China has put forward an ideal of this notion of humans co-participating in these large processes. So transformative change, which will say we need green economics, we need eco-economics, eco-cities, eco-education, eco-farming, etc. So all of this is happening in our lifetime. And how our two countries will come together on ecological civilization and the rest of the world is crucial for all future generations. So that sense that we are participating in a universe unfolding process is crucial. So I'm going to end, I have of course much more in my notes here, but I want to end with this most, I think, inspiring passage from Zhang, the Neo-Confucian, 10th, 11th century, and his call for, it's called the Western inscription, on his wall, his study wall. And I think it's one of the most profound passages. You all know it, you're all nodding and so on, but let's just put it out into the atmosphere for the call of Journey of the Universe, for the call of the extraordinary traditions of China and Confucianism and Taoism and the arts and cultivation. And let's hear for a moment the call of this early Neo-Confucian thinker. Heaven is my father, and earth is my mother, and even such a small creature as I can find an intimate place in their midst. Therefore, that which fills the universe I regard as my own body, and that which directs the universe I consider as my own nature. All people are my brothers and sisters, and all things are my companion. Wealth, honor, blessings, and benefit are meant for the enrichments of life. Poverty, humble status, worries, and sorrows are meant to help me find fulfillment. In life, I will follow and serve heaven and earth, and in death, I will be content. So, thank you so much for being here. Let's be inspired by Zhang Sai and the journey of the universe as well. Thank you. So first, we're going to have comments and reflections from Professor Yao, and then John Krim.
Are you sure? Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. And it's my great pleasure to be here again. And I remember that 4 years ago, that's around 4 years ago, I think we were here and had a very good discussion about this film. So after 4 years, we come back and to talk about this again, but this with new sense. And these 4 years, I know was very difficult for everybody. And this not to these people in the United States, but also to the people in China. And I'm very glad we get over this, because I really hate this kind of virtual meetings and virtual conferences, and we finally have an opportunity to see each other, to have a face-to-face discussion. And I'm very pleased you this time come here for the event, and also for the event in Xinzhong and the forum. I look forward to this. And okay, before this, and I really think this, I should congratulate the authors, producers of this film. This is a beautifully produced film. It's really, really good. I can share with you a story. And I showed this film to a boy in my home, 60 years old. And this in the first, you just give me the link for the English version, and of course he can't understand the English, but he can. He was amazed by the quite a lot of pictures. Particularly, he became really interested in black hole and the soul and in the galaxies and this in the water. And this because of the film, and his big wish is to become an astronomer in the future. This because he just came to the attended this kind of first year primary school, and the teacher asked each pupil and write their personal wishes and write in a paper and then put it in a box, and after 6 years when they graduated they would show him again. So we asked him and what he want to, what his biggest wishes, he want to become this astronomer, to find out the black hole, the black hole, and that is this is every time when he met or meet friends or other people, he would tell these stories to others about the black hole and this universe. So this is even for the young kids. You can see how attractive this film is. And really, I think it's really I should say you have done very beautiful film. Yeah, thank you. And of course, Mary Evelyn is a very famous internationally and famous scholar on Confucianism. And this is I admired her the achievements and this in the area, in the field, and also we worked together for quite a few years. And I know him very well, not her very well, and so this is another thing which I would say to welcome you to Beijing again, and the see you both well healthy and the active, and this is a very good thing. Of course, in this film, and because this you were the co-authors of this, I can see deeply their Confucian thoughts there. Of course, these older films showed us about the summers and the Greek philosophy and the civilizations, and sometimes some pictures about China. But I think deeply you weaved together the Western and understandings and the Confucian and the views and the thoughts about these things here. So this this kind of film, this reminds me about three keywords. I thought as my comments on for this. The first is really we should have this called respect and all these kind of feelings and towards our sources. In the Confucian tradition, and particularly in the Confucian analects, and this, and respect and awe, and 敬畏之心, and that is very important for good Confucian. And this, but of course, and in the recent decades of this and 100 years, and this we somehow lost this kind of thing. I think this is really we should really regain this kind of respect to our the ancestors. And I think in the film I remember mentioned about ancestors. This is quite a Chinese way to address this and our origin of these things there. And I remember in the 春秋繁露 and of the 董仲舒 and they talk about this this called heaven, and 天 is this humans and called 曾祖父, the great grandfather and of this. And when we read this, I read this, I didn't gain much about this. I thought it's just a metaphor, and this they say that is our origin here. But in this film, I can feel this is really we are truly descendants, and not only of our this kind of and these physical ancestors, but also these cosmic ancestors. So that is one thing that I think I would gain from watching this film. And the second keyword is called responsibility. So we know and the human are both small and great. And we are small because when we compared with this cosmic and this kind of bodies, Earth, like this, galaxies, we are really nothing. Really nothing there. And this very tiny about this. And but this kind of tiny things really develop this kind of self-consciousness and understandings, and then values, and then sports and music, arts, all these kind of things. So make us feel, particularly in the modern times, feel that we are great. We are great. We can control everything. We can control everything. And that both are good, and for human beings and for the earth, but also can be bad because we are too powerful. Our abilities are too strong. Then we try to conquer everything, which already they exist there for billions of years. So, but if this, and we really need to have our responsibility. The sense of responsibility is particularly important at this kind of time. We are facing really this ecological crisis and climate changes. Everybody knows in Beijing, and this year's downpour and of this kind of rains and this killed many people. Last year in Henan province, and also this nearly 400 people were killed. So this so for this, I think that we really feel we are responsible for these kind of things. We need to do something. We need really to do something to change this kind of thing. We can't continue this way because this is a self-destroying way. So really, this second keyword. And the third keyword I would think is so we must learn. Of course, and learn to be alive, learn to live, to live. That is, inherited in our genes. We need to learn. But here is really I talk about the learn is in the sense of Confucian and learning to be human. And learning to be human, that was this kind of central theme of this. 5 years ago, and then 2018, this World Congress of Philosophy, they learn to be human. This is the Professor Dewey Ming's proposal. And but learning to be humans really is learning to be together. And as human beings, we are of course divided by countries, the nations, by cultures, by different customers and all this. But we are human beings. We are human beings. We can't just say because of our different views, we would go to conflict and even go to war and this kind of this and the. So this is not a way, not the good for human and the being and human interests. This is even for the interests of the human beings, we really need to learn to be together good in a good way, rather than just things. So these are the three keywords that come to my mind. I thought somehow this reflect my understanding and of when I watched this film, and these also these things which I feel very, very important for not only for me, but for probably for most of us, and this is sincere. So I just stop here and add these kind of comments, and this we can further discuss about this. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you. And I want to mention that when you take that little brochure, there's the continuation of the film. There's a book, of course, but there's also interviews with scientists who describe this sense of awe and wonder. For them, their own science in the unfolding universe. So there's 10 scientists who are talking about galaxies and planetary formations, which is very inspiring. And then there's 10 interviews with environmentalists who are saying, what do we do for education, for the next generation, for eco-cities and so on. So there's a practical aspect that you can look up online, and the Coursera courses as well, which some of you have taken, are in Chinese. So just wanted to mention, from the awe to the responsibility is such an important point, and we thank you for that. Now, John Grimm doesn't need introduction to me because he's my husband and co-worker in every possible way. And his specialty, as already mentioned, is indigenous traditions and so on. He's published a book on the shaman. He's published Indigenous Religions and Ecology in the Harvard series. But mostly, I want to say, this film, and I mean this film would not be possible without John's attention to every detail you cannot imagine for 10 years. But also, all of our work would not be possible without John, his dedication. And he is a Taoist, while I am Confucian, and so this makes our life a nice yin and yang. So that's my introduction to John Grimm.
This is the perfect combination.
I definitely should have asked for more pay. I got to that. It's delightful to be with you. I want to move in that weave, if you let me, in which not only are we caught in the environmental crises of our times, and I join with Professor Yao in really noting those very seriously. We have come out of an intense engagement with the COVID experience, and we look into our future and we see other dramatic moments of intense pressure on the human biodiversity, planetary community, and we wonder where it is that we are going towards. Along with that weave of this sense of our intense pressures and concern and anxiety, I want to remember with you the intense experience of discovery that science has brought us, that the sense of aesthetic enjoyment that the humanities and social sciences have brought to us. I'm thinking, for example, in the 1990s, when the Hubble telescope and prior work first began to make us aware that there were significant amounts of galaxies out there. We had already had Hubble's work letting us know there were other galaxies, but suddenly we were seeing in the 90s, I remember this vividly, the wall of galaxies, when there was this peering out and we saw a wall of galaxies as if there were innumerable. And now we have a sense, as the film laid out, billions, perhaps trillions, billions of stars in our galaxy, trillions of galaxies. So, you know, what does it mean? And again, Professor Yao put it in the context of our insignificance, and yet the fact that we're realizing this, something new is coming to us. So this weave again, is it paradoxical that we have such a delight while we also have such intense anxiety at this time? I'm a student of First Nations peoples, American Indian peoples, Native American peoples. The word indigenous is used. Who's indigenous? We're all indigenous. We all our lineages on this planet. But there are societies that carry their own languages, kinship systems, their way of relating to their local bioregions. Many of them are still enduring, and they have a sense now of the justice of their own voice coming forward. And new studies are emerging, environmental justice, where we begin to pay attention to peoples where projects have been imposed upon them, or peoples who have lost the capacity to make decisions about the land they have lived on and about what happens to them. So justice issues begin to surface. And when Mary Evelyn was talking about the moral force in Confucianism, the moral force in nature, I think we're beginning to see now this weave again of environmental justice, and the human is bringing considerations to land, to food, to peoples who live close to the land. And what are the justice issues involved in the way we produce food, how it's distributed? So these are issues that are embedded in the film that I think we're beginning to see the larger implications of it. Is the film perfect? I've watched it 650 times and I have a few critiques, but I'll only share two of them with you. One of them is when Brian is talking about symbolic systems, language. It's a powerful moment in the film, I believe. And he says at one point, rocks were just rocks until they had these markings on them, and these markings began to guide civilizations. It's a very special moment, but I actually cringe, because I know even Brian, in his tradition, Salish people from the Fraser River of British Columbia, rocks are not just rocks. Rocks have been speaking to the human for aeons, huh? And so rocks participate also in this journey of the universe. And I know Brian himself revisits that point. And another point earlier on, he talks about the vision of Aristarchus, where the earth, Aristarchus, the first that we know of, who's reported, and that lineage became written, he saw that the earth moved around the sun. He speculated it, and it was also calculations in his early mathematics. And Brian makes the comment that was forgotten. I remember at one showing, a physicist came up to me afterwards and he says, it wasn't forgotten. That actually in the writings of many cosmologists, the early cosmologists, they remembered Aristarchus, but it wasn't satisfactory. They had no way to substantiate his observations. So it was set aside. But then again, with Copernicus, it come forward. So the film itself, we hoped for something that would be evergreen, and I feel it is. And when I listen to Professor Yao, I feel that the pride in being part of a project that still speaks to us. Having released it in 2011, it still speaks to us. And how does it speak? I think it speaks to us of that cosmology-ecology mix that Mary Evelyn was talking of. That is a mix I find among the peoples that I study, especially Apsalake, Crow people in Montana. They have stories of where they come from. They are changing woman's grandchild. They say that's who they are. Changing woman is Venus. And so their grandmother is in the sky. Kinship with the sky. Just feel that sense of orienting. The land that they are on is marked by relationship with the stars that have been thrown into the sky in their mythology. So the sky are their relative, the sky, the stars in their sky. Very similar to what Brian was saying, but his science perspective came at it very differently. The point I'm after is that indigenous traditions also understood the sky above, the land, as a cosmos ecology bridge that was orienting, grounding, nurturing, and transforming. And when I think in the Chinese context of orienting and the moral force, grounding and the sense of the land, and what the fingerprints of the lineage of Chinese farming, moving, touching the land, the fingerprints on the land, the grounding in this part of the world. Nurturing. I'm still rubbing my stomach with the meal of today. Chinese cuisine, I mean, it's best in the world, isn't it? Nurturing, transforming, and I think that's where I want to end. I want to move in this direction. This is a panel which was intentionally set up to provide especially a Confucian view. And I really I feel the moral force of the remarks that Mary Evelyn and Professor Yao, Professor Tucker and Professor Yao have made. And I want to bring another indigenous perspective, the Taoist perspective, into this mix, and to just draw a slight difference, but a difference that's a weave. It's not a separation, and I think we all know that Confucian and Taoist traditions were woven together in so many ways, so not separate, but a weave, and yet there's distinct difference. And the difference I want to point out is in Chuangzi, that beautiful text where he speaks of feeding life. And I just want to draw out, he doesn't say feeding my life, feeding our life, feeding human life, but certainly Chuangzi knew that was crucial. We have to eat. We have to eat if we want to survive. So feeding my life is important. But for Chuangzi, the higher value was feeding life. What in the world did he mean by that? Is it the case that while Confucianism emphasized nature as a moral force with which the human could cultivate ourselves to achieve some deep insight, on the Taoist side, there was a sense you cannot cultivate it. It is cultivating you. And when you feed yourself in order to feed that deeper life within you, then you come close to that which nurtures, transforms, grounds, and orients. So the sense of being with the Tao in an utterly spontaneous and receptive way. I mentioned early on that the whirlpool meant a great deal to me now in the film. I see myself as a whirlpool. That which comes into my body passes through my body. But the emergent pattern that I am, John Grimm, walks on this earth, and the way I want to walk is in league with the Tao.